When asked to list the greatest pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball, there are a few names that immediately come to mind. Names which are synonymous with excellence, the stuff of legend. Gibson, Pedro, Maddux, Koufax, and, more often than not, Nolan Ryan. However, there is one thing that the first four possess which Ryan lacks, one accomplishment that, upon achieving it, places a pitcher among the truly elite. A Cy Young Award. Wait. How could it be possible that Nolan Ryan, a pitcher so dominant that opposing batters would pretend to be sick in order to avoid facing him, never won a Cy Young Award in his nearly 3-decade-long career? Seriously, you're telling me Rick Porcello has one, but the Ryan Express doesn't? In order to understand the magnitude of what at first glance appears to be one of the most egregious oversights in MLB history, we first need to appreciate how incredible Nolan Ryan's career truly was. As a boy growing up in Alvin, Texas, it was apparent from a young age that Nolan Ryan was destined for baseball greatness. From 1 to 4 a.m. every morning, Nolan helped his father deliver copies of the Houston Post to the town, rolling them up and throwing them onto driveways along the route. This not only strengthened his arm, but it instilled in him a strong work ethic, which he would carry with him throughout his career. By the time Nolan reached junior high, he had the arm strength to stand on the goal line of a football field and throw a softball over 100 yards. He began attracting the attention of Major League scouts as a high school junior in 1964, when he averaged 2 strikeouts per inning, including one 9-inning game in which he fanned 21 batters. Though these were the days before the invention of the radar gun, scouts knew that they were watching a teenage kid do something they had never seen before. New York Mets scout Red Murph could recall the exact day he first saw Ryan pitch. The night before, I had seen the 2 fastest pitchers in the National League at the time, Jim Maloney and Turk Farrell. Nolan Ryan was already faster than both of them by far. Even as a high schooler, stories abounded about the fireballing hurler out of Alvin. In the first inning of one game during his senior year, he cracked the batting helmet of the leadoff hitter with a fastball. He hit the next batter, breaking his arm. Upon witnessing this, the third hitter made the completely rational decision to refuse to enter the batter's box altogether out of fear for life and limb. On the insistence of Red Murph, the Mets selected Ryan in the 12th round of the 1965 amateur draft. He made his major league debut the following year, but shaky control and a series of injuries limited his playing time early on in his career. This didn't stop national news media and opposing players alike from marveling at his raw power. In a Life magazine article published in 1968, future Hall of Famer and 1967 MVP Orlando Cepeda said of Ryan, "He's the best young pitcher I've ever seen in the major leagues." All in all, Nolan Ryan spent 5 seasons in New York, highlighted by a World Series victory in 1969 in which he saved Game 3 with 2 1/3 innings of shutout ball. But by the end of the 1971 season, his career record stood at a middling 29-38, and although he had struck out nearly a batter an inning for over 500 innings, he had also averaged 6 walks per game. If something didn't change, and soon, it appeared that Nolan Ryan's once promising career was nearing its end. Luckily for both Ryan and the game of baseball, the Mets made the decision to trade their struggling pitcher to the California Angels as part of a package deal for former All-Star shortstop Jim Fregosi. And while Fregosi was out of New York by 1973, it was in California that Nolan Ryan became, well, Nolan Ryan. With the assistance of pitching coach Tom Morgan, Ryan overhauled his delivery, learning how to throw a sharp breaking curveball, and started a first-of-its-kind weight conditioning program in order to build up his arm and body. Over his 8 years with the Angels, Ryan averaged over 300 strikeouts a season, had an ERA plus of 1.15, and tied Sandy Koufax's career record of 4 no-hitters. His reputation grew to the point that when it was his turn in the rotation, opposing batters would often come down with a mysterious disease known as Ryanitis, which kept them out for the day. Oakland catcher Dave Duncan explained it simply: "Ryan doesn't just get you out, he embarrasses you." Nolan Ryan's success in California didn't stop the Angels from abandoning him after 1979, figuring that at the ripe old age of 32, his effectiveness as a power pitcher was coming to a close. Little did they know that, at this point in his career, Ryan wasn't even halfway done. He signed with his hometown Astros, becoming the first player in Major League Baseball to make $1 million per year. It wasn't the last record he would break during his time in Houston. In 1980, he became only the 4th pitcher ever to record his 3,000th career strikeout. In 1981, he broke Koufax's record with his 5th career no-hitter. In 1983, he broke Walter Johnson's strikeout record of 3,509, and in 1985 became the first pitcher in MLB history to strike out 4,000 batters. Ignoring the fact that at the age of 41, Nolan Ryan was outperforming pitchers 20 years his junior, Astros owner John McMullen attempted to cut his pay following the 1989 season, prompting him to move across the state to the Texas Rangers. Ryan continued smashing records in Arlington, notching career strikeout number 5,000 in 1989, winning his 300th game in 1990, and pitching his 6th and 7th no-hitters. Oh, and he also kicked Robin Ventura's ass. But like all good things, Nolan Ryan's playing days came to an end on September 22, 1993. In the first inning of a game against Seattle, Ryan tore the ulnar collateral ligament in his right elbow. He would never pitch in the majors again. Nolan Ryan's career spanned 4 different teams, 4 decades, and 7 U.S. presidents. His 27 MLB seasons tied Cap Anson for the most in history, and his strikeout record of 5,714 is nearly 1,000 more than Randy Johnson at number 2. So it came as no surprise when Ryan was elected to the Hall of Fame on his first ballot in 1999, forever enshrined in baseball history. Which brings us back to our main topic of discussion for this video. How is it possible that during that 27-season span of unprecedented dominance, not once did Nolan Ryan ever win a Cy Young Award? Let's start by taking a look at what the Cy Young actually is. Beginning in 1956, the Cy Young Award was created to honor the best pitcher in Major League Baseball, selected by the Baseball Writers Association of America. Despite its over 60-year history, there doesn't appear to be any set criteria by which the voters are to abide when making their decisions. On the one hand, this allows them more freedom to consider less conventional factors, giving pitchers who might not fit the traditional mold of a Cy Young winner a chance. On the other hand, you can also end up with this. Basically, deciding the winner of the Cy Young Award comes down to somehow figuring out who was the quote-unquote best during any one year. So with that in mind, I began my search. Through painstaking analysis of every single one of Nolan Ryan's 27 seasons, I was able to zero in on 3 years in which he could possibly stake a claim to the mantle of best pitcher in the league: 1973, 1981, and 1987. In 1973, Orioles ace and future Hall of Famer Jim Palmer began an historic run in which he collected 3 Cy Young Awards over the span of 4 years. 1973 was also the first year in which Nolan Ryan finished top 5 in Cy Young voting, coming in second. Here's how they compare statistically. As you can see, Palmer has Ryan beat in ERA plus and winning percentage, while Ryan has the edge in wins above replacement, innings pitched, and fielding independent pitching. But there's one number in particular that I want to highlight here. See, it was in 1973 that Nolan Ryan broke the first of many MLB records, striking out 383 batters to set the all-time mark. In doing so, he had surpassed Sandy Koufax's record of 382 and announced himself as a force to be reckoned with for years to come. So if Nolan Ryan had accomplished all of this, how didn't he win the Cy Young? Well, allow me to throw a few more numbers up on the screen. These are the respective team records for Jim Palmer's Baltimore Orioles and Ryan's California Angels. At the time, the Orioles were perennial pennant contenders, and in 1973, their 97-65 record was the best in the American League. In contrast, the Angels were an underwhelming 79-83, 4th in the AL West. They finished second to last in the league in runs scored, which makes it all the more impressive that Ryan was able to collect 21 wins. However, in an era in which wins were king and pitchers were judged by the overall success of their teams, Palmer was the voters' favorite. Of course, nowadays voters place far less influence on factors like wins, knowing that pitchers can't control the fielders behind them. Because of this, I believe that if today's Cy Young voters had to choose between Jim Palmer's and Nolan Ryan's 1973 performances, they would pick Ryan as the winner. So that's it then. The voters got it wrong in 1973, and Nolan Ryan should have won the Cy Young. Well, not so fast. While I believe the voters did get it wrong in 73, I don't think that Nolan Ryan was the rightful winner, because for as great as Nolan Ryan was that year, there was another pitcher who was even better. In 1973, there was no pitcher more valuable than the Minnesota Twins' Bert Blyleven. His 10.8 wins above replacement were good for the best in all of Major League Baseball, While his 1.56 ERA plus and 2.32 fielding independent pitching outranked both Palmer and Ryan respectively, he accomplished all of this over the course of 325 innings, during which he struck out 258 batters, which, while not quite as extraordinary as Ryan's 383, was excellent nonetheless. Despite this, he somehow only finished 7th in Cy Young voting, receiving a single third-place vote. So while Nolan Ryan had a better case than Jim Palmer for the 1973 Cy Young Award, it was Blyleven who had them both beat. Fast forward in time 8 years to 1981. Now with the Astros, Nolan Ryan has put up yet another dominant season. His minuscule 1.69 ERA leads both leagues, while his 1.95 ERA plus ranks among some of the best of all time. In a strike-shortened season, his 140 strikeouts and 3.8 wins above replacement place him in the upper echelon of pitchers. Yet once again, the Cy Young Award would elude him, though in all fairness, there's probably not much he could have done to overcome the phenomenon that was Fernando Mania. Vin Scully spent 66 years as the play-by-play announcer for the Dodgers, witnessing legends like Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, and Clayton Kershaw in person. But in his words, watching Fernando Valenzuela was a religious experience. During his first 8 starts of the season, Valenzuela racked up 8 wins, 7 complete games, and 5 shutouts, all while surrendering a mere 4 earned runs in his first 72 innings. Fans flocked by the thousands to watch the young Mexican star. Of the 12 starts he made at Dodger Stadium, 11 were sellouts. The number of radio stations broadcasting Dodgers games in Mexico increased from 3 to 17, while Latino attendance at home games jumped from 8 to nearly 30% by the mid-80s. It was Jaime Jarrín, the man known as the Spanish voice of the Dodgers, who said that he truly believed there is no other player in Major League history who created more fans than Fernando Valenzuela. Fernando turned so many people from Mexico, Central America, and South America into fans. He created interest in baseball among people who did not care about baseball. By the end of the 81 season, Fernando Valenzuela had become the biggest story in baseball, and the Cy Young voters chose accordingly, making him the first player ever to win both the Rookie of the Year and Cy Young awards in the same season. Nolan Ryan never stood a chance. Are you ready to get mad? I mean, like, really mad. Okay, well, don't say I didn't warn you. In 1987, Nolan Ryan was 40 years old. Also in 1987, Nolan Ryan led the National League in ERA, ERA+, and wins above replacement. He led all of Major League Baseball in fielding independent pitching, hits per 9 innings, and strikeouts. His whip was in the top 3, as were his adjusted pitching runs and adjusted pitching wins. After over 2 decades of elite performance, Ryan had finally put up a complete season worthy of, drumroll please, 5th place. In 1987, the voters responsible for selecting the National League Cy Young Award made one of the most baffling decisions I've ever seen, and that's including this. Despite putting up league-leading numbers in both traditional and advanced statistics, Nolan Ryan finished without a single first-place vote. And if that isn't enough to make you want to walk straight into the ocean, the NL Cy Young winner that year was none other than Steve Bedrosian? You heard that right. Not only did they fail to recognize Nolan Ryan as the best pitcher in the National League, they gave the award to a closer who, with all due respect to Mr. Bedrosian, wasn't even all that impressive. Don't get me wrong, Steve Bedrosian had a very good year for a relief pitcher, leading the league with 40 saves and putting up a solid 2.83 ERA over 89 innings. But Cy Young worthy? Not by a long shot. This win can't even be explained by voters' strange obsession with relievers during the 70s and 80s. Of the 6 relievers to take home the Cy Young between 1977 and 1989, Bedrosian's stats place him at the bottom. And it's not like he was pitching for a World Series contender, since the 87 Phillies finished with a 4th place 80-82 record. As far as I can tell, Steve Bedrosian's inexplicable victory wasn't so much the result of anything special that he did. Rather, it was more likely due to the fact that there wasn't a clear consensus on who was better. Rick Sutcliffe and Rick Russell were hardly the picture of dominance, and Orel Hershiser was good, but not great. But as we've already established, Nolan Ryan put up better numbers than all of these guys. So what gives? Well, in 1987, the Houston Astros were not good. they ranked at the bottom of the league in nearly all offensive categories, including runs scored. As a result, Nolan Ryan's win-loss record was an abysmal 8-16 through no fault of his own. Unfortunately, this was still at a time when wins were the be-all end-all when determining the best of the best. It would appear that the voters in 1987 were physically unable to award the Cy Young to a pitcher with a losing record, lest they experience a bout of cognitive dissonance severe enough to turn their brains to soup. In simultaneously denying Nolan Ryan the Cy Young while granting it to Steve Bedrosian, the voters made, and I say this with 100% confidence, the worst decision in the nearly 70-year history of the award. So we've arrived at the conclusion that Nolan Ryan, despite never having won a Cy Young Award over the course of his career, had a strong case in both 1973 and 1981, and was outright robbed of one in 1987. Even so, I can't help but feel like something here is off. As I said before, Nolan Ryan is one of the most commonly mentioned names when people list the best to ever take the mound. This isn't just me saying this either. In a poll I put out a couple of weeks ago, 61% of you ranked Nolan Ryan as one of the top 5 pitchers of all time. An additional 27% of you had him in the top 10. So if we all know that he was great, and people at the time knew he was great, then why didn't he get the awards recognition of the other greats of the game? Well, the first and probably most obvious answer is that Cy Young Awards just aren't a good measurement of greatness. But I think there's another element at play here, an element specific to Nolan Ryan. What you're looking at right now is Nolan Ryan's jaws. Jaws, for those of you who don't obsessively scroll through Baseball Reference in your spare time, stands for Jaffe War Score System. Developed by sabermetrician Jay Jaffe, JAWS is a method by which to measure a player's Hall of Fame worthiness by comparing him to previous Hall of Famers at his position. The formula takes a player's career wins above replacement and averages it with his 7 most valuable seasons in terms of WAR, in order to better account for players who may have lacked longevity but were great nonetheless. You'll notice that Nolan Ryan's JAWS is 62.2, only slightly higher than that of the average Hall of Fame starting pitcher. Of course, that doesn't mean he was average. We're talking Hall of Famers here. So an average pitcher in this case is still one of the best to ever play the game. But for all the talk of Nolan Ryan as one of the top 10 or even top 5 pitchers in history, the data doesn't seem to back that up. Among starting pitchers, Nolan Ryan ranks 31st all-time in JAWS. The main culprit here is his peak WAR. In his 7 best seasons, Ryan accrued 43.1 wins above replacement, 7 less than the average Hall of Fame starting pitcher. The reality is that while he was certainly one of the best pitchers in the game for over 20 years, Nolan Ryan was never quite the best. Whether it be Tom Seaver, Jim Palmer, or Steve Carlton, it seems like there was always someone in the league who was just better than Ryan. This then raises a question that I am loath to even speak aloud for fear of the baseball gods striking me dead where I stand. Was Nolan Ryan actually that great? From your responses, it would seem that Nolan Ryan shares a space in the collective baseball consciousness reserved for the likes of Walter Johnson, Bob Gibson, or even Cy Young himself. But the numbers aren't so kind, instead placing him among the Tom Glavines and Mike Mussinas of the Hall. Obviously still great, but far from the almost mythical status of the very best ever. So which side is right? Now obviously I'm in no place to make any kind of declaration regarding Nolan Ryan's legacy as a baseball player, but I can give you my 2 cents. In the history of baseball, there are typically 2 types of players that come up when discussing the best ever. The first are the compilers. Think Jamie Moyer or Charlie Huff, pitchers who were never really all that terrific, but who, through many years spent in the league, were able to slowly but surely rack up enough counting stats to secure a spot on the all-time lists. On the other end of the spectrum are those I like to call the shooting stars, players who weren't around for very long, but when they were, they dazzled us with their brilliance. Think Sandy Koufax or Johan Santana. While Nolan Ryan definitely wasn't the latter, I also don't feel comfortable relegating him to the status of a mere compiler either. Yes, many of his all-time records are the result of him outlasting his contemporaries, which is why, in addition to the strikeout record, he also holds the record for most walks, is second in career starts, and 5th in total innings. But, unlike other compilers, he also ranks among the top all-time in many rate stats, including hits per 9 and strikeouts per 9. To me, however, Nolan Ryan's effect on the game transcends statistics, because, to paraphrase the most disappointing television finale in recent memory, there's no accounting for the power of a good story. When fans made their way to the ballpark for a Nolan Ryan start, they weren't just going for the strikeouts, or the fastballs, or the overpriced beers. They were going to bear witness to the Ryan Express, the type of athlete who comes around only once in a generation. So my answer is yes, Nolan Ryan was great, for the same reason that Babe Ruth and Jackie Robinson were great, because when they were done playing, their legacies went beyond mere black ink in the record book, and their impact on people could not be contained within a tidy box score. Nolan Ryan changed the game forever, shattering preconceived notions of what was possible and leaving fans enthralled for decades to come. And while his records may one day be broken, his story will live on forever. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd stick around for a quick update regarding this channel. First off, I wanted to thank each and every one of you who've taken the time to watch, comment, and subscribe. I love hearing so many of your thoughts about baseball, and the fact that over 10,000 of you have subscribed to hear mine actually blows my mind. Secondly, over the past few weeks I've been trying to upload on a more consistent basis, and my hope is that this summer I'll be able to commit to a schedule of one video every 2 weeks, with uploads coming every other Monday. Now with that being said, what would really help me out would be if you all clicked on the bell icon in order to be notified when I put up a new video. And as always, sound off in the comments with your thoughts on Nolan Ryan, the Cy Young Award, or maybe just what you had for lunch today. Know that I read each and every one, so the weirder the better. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.